People are starting businesses. People are using it in their professional careers. Um, People are using it for personal software. So it's great to bring people together and find commonality in the solutions that people are using. Give each other best practices, tips, and strategies, and then get hands-on. And the guys at Aparavi, I've talked to Hendrik at length. He's a big windsurfer. So he's got a lot to show you today as well. Um, I want to make sure that everyone has gotten their discount code. So if you haven't yet, uh, maybe write it down. I think possibly Hendrik and the team might have been able to send over some info about how to input your discount code, but you'll just be at windsurf.com/download, and then you'll be putting in the code surf-Munich, and that'll give you a free month and 500 credits if you're a new user. And then if you're an existing user, you can use that same code surf-Munich for 250 credits as a paid user, as an existing paid user instantly. So definitely make sure that you get that.
Nice.
And if you have any trouble, or if you need help, or maybe even a few credits, definitely feel free to connect with me online. Matt Berglund on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Discord. So yeah, join our Discord, join our Reddit, the windsurf communities, and then that's it from me. So I'm going to pass it on to Gina now, who can tell you a little bit about what's the latest in windsurf. But again, big shout out to Aparavi, big shout out to our venue partner, big shout out to everyone that's making this happen, and thank you so much for being here. So without further ado, here's Gina.
Thanks, Matt.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you, Matt. Yeah, so as introduced earlier, my name is Gina. I am a deployed engineer here at Windsurf. So yeah, I've been at the company for a couple months as of now, but yeah, excited to share more about Windsurf today, and I'll pass it off to Ibs.
Hey all, pleasure. Hey all, pleasure to be here. My name's Ibs. I'm a deployed engineer at Windsurf as well, based out of our London office, and that typically means our job is to, match what customers are looking to accomplish with what the capabilities of Windsurf, architecture, security, enablement, and having the pleasure of meeting you good folks here today.
Great. Well, thank you very much for the introduction. And now it's actually time to, I would say, to give the stage to you, Adrian. He's our CEO and our founder. So actually, without him, nothing of this would be possible. So thank you for that, obviously. And thanks for being here. Please, exactly there.
They gave me that mark, and they told me to stand here. And I'm so bad in following orders, you don't want to imagine. That's probably why I decided to start my own company. It's not my first one. I've done it multiple times in my life. At some point, I thought I'm not going to do it again, and now I have done it again. And honestly, on days like that, you're a really happy founder, because it's just exciting to set up events like that. Warm welcome from my end. Thanks very much for coming out. I know it's actually holiday season. Beautiful Munich summer. It's absolutely amazing. Coming from California, this is like, give me a break. Give me a break. But I love to be here. Anyways, does anybody really know what Aparavi does? I think you all know what Windsurf does. Well, somebody wants to explain what we do? I got some arms up over here. So,
I think that's me.
That guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, this is Hendrik. This is Hendrik.
Lovely to meet you guys. Yeah, we're Aparavi. Maybe not as famous as Windsurf yet, but I think we stand our ground clear. We help businesses all around the world to unlock the value that they have sitting in their data, specifically their unstructured data. So all the files, legacy PDFs, videos, audios that you send around in your everyday life, we're trying to help you unlock what is in there and let it feed into your next Gen AI application. Just like tonight, what we'll be building, I'll be showing you very explicitly how this can become useful when you are dreaming of something that you want to build and you think that AI can help you get there, and we can be the tool that you use together with Windsurf to make that reality. That's what we do.
So, long story short, AI without the right data set doesn't work. It's not working. And you know what's interesting? When we started our company, we knew that unstructured data in general is super, super, super important. And now with AI, it seems like a lot of people do really understand why it's so important. So it's really interesting to see how a company that did start in the unstructured data corner to give you the best solutions to really get a handle on unstructured data is now at the center of something that obviously is just going to be really, really big. So I'm really happy about what we have developed, and you will see some of it. But you know what's interesting? So that gentleman is from Hamburg, and I'm from Switzerland, but we met in San Francisco. And then he became an intern at Aparavi. Run us through your journey at our company and why you think it's so fascinating being on that team.
Yeah. Well, I had the pleasure of starting as a software engineer at Aparavi before doing a couple other things related to software in my life in Europe. And I came to San Francisco because I always felt the opportunity on work on something that can impact a lot of people is just so great over there. So I joined the team at Aparavi because I saw the vision of what we're building and how the world needs that piece of the puzzle in order to access and really revolutionize the world in the way that we think AI is going to revolutionize what we're doing. And yeah, I think I've been making great impact here, starting to build our developer community, which is also how I met Matt and Gina in San Francisco. And now I have the pleasure of leading the product, which we call the data toolchain for AI here at Aparavi, and which I'm going to be showing to you in just a little bit.
How many of you have been on a hackathon before?
Awesome.
Oh,
awesome.
That's awesome.
Great. I was not expecting that high of a number because I haven't been to many hackathons.
You're impressed.
Yes, that's great. So I think that's kind of a good point where we hand it over to Aaron to just give a brief introduction into the evening and the technology, and then we're going to get our hands on afterwards with Gina and a closed workshop that's going to tell you about all the secrets that you need in order to use Windsurf agentic tools really effectively to build apps. All right, let's go.
This was yes. All right. Well, yet again, it's a pleasure having you guys. My name is Aaron Jimenez. I am a developer experience engineer here at Aparavi. And today, we're super excited to get us started. We're going to vibe code some pretty cool things, and we'll get to really sort of like highlight this interaction between both platforms. So the first thing is, as Adrian mentioned, great AI applications really start with great data. So I guess like in the next 20 minutes, we'll be able to show you that, and then I guess like in less than 10 minutes, you'll be able to spin up like an entire product from an unstructured data piece. So, but maybe first I'll circle back a little bit around like what are we doing and who we are as Aparavi. So we are experts in unstructured data. We started back in 2018, and we have over 5 years of experience in this industry. As mentioned before, we have 5 different offices in US and Europe, most recently in San Francisco, which is great, in the epicenter of AI. And over those 5 years, we've developed 4 different products that are specifically targeted at really helping companies unlock the full potential of their unstructured data. And we've helped companies like Denodo, Marazen, Alex Partners, and many others to actually do this, I guess like this dream come true. Because we strongly believe that every breakthrough begins with people who can actually trust their information. And in a world where, we are starting to generate information at an unprecedented scale, it becomes very difficult to trust that data. Specifically more when more than 80% of this is actually unstructured. So you can think about this as all the emails that you're sending out to your colleagues, all the PDFs, all the documents, your legal contracts, There's a wide variety of them. Like we're always in touch with them. We have audios, maybe like the audio transcription of a phone call that you have with one of your clients. When it comes down to video, maybe it's one of the meetings that you recorded that you want to share with your colleagues, and images as well. Of course, like infographics. Maybe it's as simple as taking a picture of your receipt. We're always in touch with these type of information. Just think about it yesterday. How many times you opened your mail? How many times you were trying to dig deep for that specific file that you were trying to send over to someone in Slack? And there's just like a million different types of applications out there that generate a lot of noise. So in reality, how this translates now into the I guess like the corporate world is that companies, because of this growth in data, they tend to have blind spots. They don't even know what type of data they have or where it lives. Imagine having to handle over 5 petabytes of information across 5 different countries with 1,000 different employees. It becomes very unmanageable. Then, because they don't know what they have, they can actually not find what they need at the right time. It takes them like, I guess, like hours per day. But if you multiply those hours every day till like the end of the year, you've spent a week or two trying to find a piece of information that it was just buried deep into your data systems. And of course, because you don't know what you have and you cannot retrieve what you need, then all the compliance officers and IT managers, they might start like, staying up at night because if there's maybe there's a compliance issue. We're exposed to all GDPR and PII risks that we're not aware of. So for those companies, we created a product called the Data Suite. So the Aparavi Data Suite allows you to get a complete snapshot of your entire data infrastructure, no matter where it lives. So you don't have to move it around. You can leave it where it is, as messy as it is, and we'll sort it out for you. We automatically, you have to forget about, manually going through every file and figuring out what type of file is it, if it's a medical record or if it's a legal document. We automatically classify and understand what information you have on in your infrastructure. So you have a better idea of like where to start. Since we also analyze information to the metadata level, we are also able to tell you which pieces of information are obsolete or duplicate, so you can slash those extra gigabytes of information that you're paying that you shouldn't. And lastly, we also allow you to find the information super fast. So you can build your custom classifications, you can create your custom instructions to actually extract information with ease. Now, of course, like in the age of AI, this is super important because all these solutions now are actually feeding off of this same unstructured data. But you might ask, so if I already know what type of data I have, am I ready for AI? That's actually kind of not true. We found that most often than ever, companies also run into a barrier once they want to actually implement this type of systems or AI solutions in general. Because the first thing is that it takes forever to take your raw data and transform it into something useful for AI. So it takes you're spending weeks and months trying to figure out where to start and how to put it together. There's also this tool disconnect. So every month there's a new tool out there that is specifically made for a specific thing. But the thing is, like, you end up trying to stitch all these pieces together, and it's like it's not a nice experience having to do that all over your own. And because you're stitching everything together, you might also lose very important pieces of information that are actually the difference between a project that's in a lab, that it's only allowed in a lab, compared to an actual enterprise solution that's ready to be used by either a company or by your users. So for those companies that are in this stage, we created the data toolchain, which is your bridge from unstructured data to AI at scale. And what we do is we pretty much have this platform that is a unified experience that combines all the important pieces you need to take raw data and into your Gen AI applications. So we effortlessly connect to the top and cutting edge technologies out there, such as OpenAI, your vector data stores, your data providers, etc. We're pretty much giving you the Lego pieces so you can build whatever system fits your needs. We automatically also enrich the data that you're piping through our platform, so that way you don't miss any specific or important information that actually, yet again, makes the difference between a prototype and an actual enterprise solution. As well as we believe that the easier we make it for the users to interact with our platform, the more benefits we can deliver to more people. So we decided to go with this low-code, no-code approach that allows everyone to build data pipelines. I would say maybe including my grandmother could build one, right? Because of how easy it is. So anyways, the reason why we're here today is because, yet again, there's a synergy between Windsurf and Aparavi. And yet again, how we started this conversation is great AI apps actually start with great data. And here at Aparavi, we're making 100% sure that we deliver that data to you. So this is a little analogy that I like to make. So it's almost how fuel meets the engine. Fuel being the data within your company, and we at Aparavi make sure that we deliver that information seamlessly, safely, and at scale. And we deliver it to products and companies like Windsurf that can now actually leverage that information to make a big difference. So I guess like now it's time for us to get our hands dirty. So if you brought your laptops and are ready to start vibe coding alongside with the Windsurf, I would ask you to kindly scan this QR code. Actually, to your point, Matt, the code for accessing those free tokens or those free credits that Matt was mentioning can be found on this little landing page. As well as the access for both the Aparavi data, the MCP server, actually, yes, as well as any other resources that you might need for today. So just scan the QR code, pull your laptops, and I guess like now I'm going to pass on the word to Gina, who's going to guide us through in creating an app using just natural language.
All right. Perfect.
Yeah, take a minute or two to make sure you scan those.
Great. Yes. The password is on the website as well. If you there's not opening up.
Yeah, it's Aparavi. Yeah, the same.
Oh, by the way, that's right. Also on the landing page, you can find the Wi-Fi password. We're requesting you to install the Aparavi dash cloud Windsurf network. If you haven't done that, just everything is there on the landing page. Right.
Okay, cool.
Mike. Yeah, we do have a full house.
I saw that already. I gave them a link to it before.
Oh, you read it?
Yeah.
Oblay. Cadê a bateria? Tava buscando bastante. Pero está pieno e olha só, é longe. And I've been going to say on that free man. I was just thinking, I was read all the listening same heartbeats, but like I never was weak. Or you just always be really fun. In terms of exams, yeah.
All right, is everyone good now?
I think people might still need 1 more minute.
No problem.
And then we got you ready very, very soon. So yeah, guys, the way this is going to go down, Gina is going to give us a great intro into the secrets of Windsurf. Maybe we'll start with a small introduction into the company itself, and then on the best tips and tricks on how to use it. And then once she's done with that, I'm going to show you in a very, very short 5-minute setup real quick how you can connect our MCP server to the Windsurf IDE so that you can start using some more complicated PDFs as well, or other diagrams that you might have had. And after that, you are welcome to find a partner, find a group, or go solo and start hacking and building something. And here on the right side, you can see the prizes that we got prepared for you. And we'll have a little of a 2-minute pitch contest at the end for whoever builds the most fun, the most useful, the coolest application using Windsurf and Aparavi. All right. Gina, you ready?
Yeah, of course.
Awesome.
All right. Perfect. Can everyone see my screen and hear me clearly?
You can.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. So yeah, as mentioned earlier, today I'm just going to go over briefly about Windsurf, both from the company itself and also the IDE, and also dive into a few of our features. Now, there's a lot of them. We won't have time to talk about every one of them. But today we're going to highlight either customizations, Windsurf browser, or it depends on time, probably we can hit on both of them. So let's just get started with here. for those who don't know about Windsurf or has a very vague idea, here's a quick spiel about Windsurf. So Windsurf is the first agentic IDE on the market, and it's powered by Cascade, our agentic coding assistant. So you can see on the screen on the left, on here, wait, let me enable, this might be clearer. All right. So on this panel, you can see this is Cascade, what we're talking about. And what makes Cascade different from other coding assistant is the fact that it's agentic. And this means that first off, it can use a variety of tools to actually do a variety of things. So for example, it can go ahead and analyze your code base, directly edit your code base, go search the web, execute tool, command, terminal commands, etc., etc. All of the things that Cascade can do independently. Now, another thing is it will not only call one tool call per prompt that you send, but for every prompt that you send, it'll actually call a variety of tools sequentially until it actually thinks that it achieves what you're asking it to do. So that's another highlight. And then lastly, Cascade also has the ability to actually learn from your behaviors, learn from your code, and learn from your preferences. So you kind of get this feeling that it's improving as you go. And that's because we have those mechanics built in Windsurf for Cascade to do that. So that's a brief intro on the Windsurf IDE. And we've shipped this IDE last year in November. And ever since, we've been pushing the boundaries of AI IDEs ever since, wave after wave, really quickly. And you can see here that we're really dedicated to really improving the product and also improving the user experience in general. And actually recently, a few weeks ago, we just pushed out our newest update, Wave 11, and there's a lot more new features. But yeah, we'll probably have some time to talk about it, especially browser today. Awesome. So for those who haven't had a chance to really play around with Windsurf yet, it's pretty easy to get started. So first up, obviously, you just go to our website and then you sign up for a Windsurf account. And then next, you will just go ahead and download the Windsurf IDE itself. For today, we do have the code provided. You'll just go ahead and then upgrade that to Pro, put in the code, and you'll be able to hack away with free credits that we provide today. Now, there's always the Windsurf documentation that you can easily find online, and that lists out all sorts of features provided in Windsurf that you can play around with. So before we really dive into the Windsurf IDE and actually see for ourselves, there's a variety of ways that you can play around with Windsurf and Windsurf can help you achieve. But to get you started, you probably want to try these few key use cases that we see a lot of people really enjoy using Windsurf for. So really simply, there's the code generation. Whether you're generating code from scratch, generating code on top of existing code base, either Windsurf could be of great help. And then there's code refactoring, for example, if you're migrating from a really old Java version to a really new one, switching your front-end framework, etc., etc. All of these you can easily do with Windsurf. And then all of us, especially those that are working on like production code base, larger code base, unit testing and code documentation are things that are pretty necessary, but we just don't really like to do it. And it's pretty boring to do repetitive stuff, right? So with these, Windsurf can easily get that out of the way too. Lastly, we also see Windsurf being used in terms of AI API documenting, integrating, or just building new APIs in general. So we do suggest you playing around with these few use cases, and that will get you familiar with Windsurf pretty fastly. And then from there you can play around with the IDE, and I'm sure you'll discover new use cases that people have not talked about before. Awesome. So with that, I think it's time to kind of go see for ourselves what the IDE looks like. But for this session today, I'm going to be speaking quite a lot, but please feel free to stop me whenever there's a question or anything that's unclear. Happy to answer any questions along the way and also at the end. Awesome. So here we are in the Windsurf IDE. You can see that this will look pretty familiar to some people who's been using VS Code, and this is because that Windsurf IDE is actually a fork of VS Code. So left hand side and the middle side, you can get pretty familiar with the interface. But on the right-hand side is what's special. It's the Cascade panel here. And this is mainly what we'll be interacting with today. And to provide a little bit of context on what we're looking at here, I'm in a code base that's based on Java, having around 300 files around that number. And I know that it's a simulation of a library management system, but specifically how it does it and what the structure is, those sort of things I don't really know, right? So this is the first thing that I want to show today is how fastly you can understand the code base with Cascade. So let's go ahead and see that. I'll just tell Cascade to explain what the repository is doing. And then you'll be able to see Cascade go ahead, search through the files, analyze the files, and eventually, after a series of tool calls, gives me a summary of what we're looking at here. While Cascade is running, I hear some voices, so are we good to go? Is there any questions as of now?
I think we're good. Oh, yeah, seems like it.
Perfect. And I can't really see what's going on the screen right now. So, besides my screen, I can't really see the audience. So, like, let me know if there's any
I'll let you know,
hindrances.
Gina, in case anything comes up.
That would be great. Awesome. So we can see that it went ahead, analyzed several files, functions, classes, etc., etc. And then finally gave us the summary of the key design patterns from repository pattern, option type, interface segregation, etc., etc. And then this already saved me a ton of time when it comes to understanding the code base, but I can easily just ask further questions. For example, pull in another file right here and then ask Cascade to explain that for me, and that would be perfectly fine. So that's a brief glimpse in terms of what Cascade can do and Windsurf can do. But with all Windsurf and Cascade can do, the underlying layer here is the context awareness engine that we have. And this comes with multiple aspects, starting from code repo indexing, ranking, Riptide, which is a tool we use, and I'll explain it in a little bit, and finally, with your guidance alongside Windsurf and Cascade. So starting with code repo indexing, when you first download Windsurf IDE and you first open up a repo, the first thing that we do is we parse your cementing code blocks and index them into vector stores so that we can then batch these meaningful chunks into our context awareness engine. And these are code blocks like functions, methods, classes, etc., etc. And this is how we achieve really the full context awareness, meaning that how Windsurf fully understands your code base. And then on top of that, every single time you kind of talk to Cascade, Windsurf will rank your relevant context and relevant information. And this is really how we enhance the quality of a context. So you have so much context, but Windsurf will rank that and then finally filter out a series of most important information to pass that into Cascade and the underlying model. And then finally, there's also the built-in Riptide function that we have in Cascade. Riptide is essentially Windsurf's proprietary model that will search through the entire code base and fetch relevant code snippets. And this process, though it sounds like it's going to take a lot of time, it's actually parallelized across a lot of GPUs, and so that's why it's seamlessly fast. So now we have all three of these components. At last, we also understand that for Cascade to actually work with you, the user's guidance is really important. So we're really dedicated to developing all sorts of features that you can interact with Cascade, providing it the most relevant context, giving it customizations, etc., etc. So that's the component right there. And this is how that truly separates Windsurf with the other IDEs on the market. So yes, with that, on top of the context awareness, we developed a bunch of features. Here are just like a few listed out right there, but you guys will be sitting here all day if I have to go through all of them. So I'm just going to highlight customizations and hopefully browsers if there's time today. So let's just get into customizations. So customizations is essentially ways for you to personalize Cascade and also tailor the agent's behavior to what you really want and how your preferences are. And there are 3 ways to do this in Cascade. So there's the rules, there's workflows, and also there's memory. To give a really brief overview, rules are essentially any static content that you want to define for Cascade to keep in mind. For example, if today you're coding a project that's Python and there are certain best practices that you want to follow, then you'll just define a rule saying that, oh, I want to write all my code in Python code, and you should follow best practices 1 to 10. So things like this. This is also applicable to specifying what framework you're using, what design patterns you're using, and any other standards that you have probably within your team. And then the next we have workflows, which is slightly different from rules, but also is static content that you define. You can think of workflows essentially as a bundle of prompts that will execute all at once by Cascade once you define them. So for example, these are perfect for whatever workflows you have or whatever set of steps you always need to step through, and you find yourself repeating that step over and over again. For example, we all probably have the experience of doing the git push to the remote GitHub and then sharing our work with other teams, right? So in order to do that, you always have to go through git add, git commit with a git commit message, and before that, you also have to review the code, etc., etc. Now, once you realize you always have to do the same series of tasks, you just define that into your workflow. And then now you press a key, Cascade will do all the steps for you without you manually doing anything. And then the last customization methods is more of a dynamic content and a snapshot information that Cascade stores. So whatever information, and apologies on the content here on the slide, but memories essentially is whatever dynamic information you want Cascade to keep in mind. So this is perfect for storing a snapshot of analysis, a snapshot of a report, etc., etc. And normally Cascade might be having a conversation with you, and then it'll just realize that, oh, this information is probably important for you, and it'll go ahead and store that as a memory. But also, if there is something important to you, but Cascade has not set that as a memory yet, you can always just tell Cascade to store that as a memory, and Cascade will do so. Now, that's a lot of talking on my end. Wanted to quickly pause for any questions, clarifications. Are we good? Is there any anything that's any okay, perfect.
There we go. Yeah, would you like to
Come through with a variant and how do you publish to their cell phone?
say again?
How do you publish to the cell phone to release and deploy it in a cell phone, smartphone?
Did you get that, Gina?
Yeah, so is the question, how do you deploy and release an app to the cell phone?
Yes.
Okay. I can go first and then Ibs can give their 2 cents. I think that specific area isn't what Windsurf really specializes on. So Windsurf is an IDE that lives typically on your computer, and then where you can really just go ahead and program however you want, whether you're vibe coding, whether you're working with the team. However, we do have the option of app deploy that can assist with any sort of deployment process that you want, whether that's on the computer or on your cell phone. Ibs, do you want to chime in real quick there? Wait, let me mute.
Yeah, I just want to chime in there as well. When you're developing to the cell phone or to developing a mobile app, you work in different mobile environments, whether you're building that out with Android, if you're building maybe something locally with Expo, if you're working with Swift. So we have the Windsurf IDE, but we also have the Windsurf plugins, and the plugins can work in a range of IDE environments, bringing the capabilities of Cascade into those environments for you to develop with them. So deploying mobile is it's a broad question, right? Is what are you deploying? Where are you deploying it? But I hope I gave you a bit of a gist in how you could use it in different environments.
Okay, did that answer your question? Great, awesome. Another question. here. Yeah, please.
Question regarding like how do you handle long memories? Like, yeah, that's it.
Like how long?
Yeah, like a lot longer than
Very long. All right. Okay.
Got it. So the question is, how do we handle longer memories? And I would say typically Cascade does a great job of managing any sort of memories you have. And just for context, you can see here on the screen that we're back in the Windsurf IDE, and I basically navigated to where the memories are managed. So Cascade will do a pretty good job in terms of reading these sort of memories when it's a typical length. However, we don't really see users having a problem when it comes to longer memories. One, because typically these memories are stored as critical information, so they're short in their own sense. And then second, because there is enough context window for Cascade to take all these information into and pass that into the model.
Okay. Yeah. All right. One last question, maybe.
I'm not sure how if you can answer this, but you said you do the chunking and then you do the chunks on the functional level, on the class level. So my question would be, most of the models, like I guess, would handle entire code bases, like 10 code bases maybe together. But if you're doing chunking and then this is how we create the context level, then if I ask, let's say, how many functions does this use case handle or something, how would you answer that? Like, what's your K would be, or how many Ks do you retrieve? How many functions or classes would you retrieve to just count? Like I ask, how many functions in my code base read image? How would you handle that if you're using chunking level algorithm?
So yeah, I'm going to chime in here. So similar to how when you're using an IDE for standard linting and formatting, the linter and formatter uses AST parsing underneath the hood to understand the structure of your code. So imagine I have a function, that function, I can go into the IDE, close that function. How does it know it's a function? We don't use a naive chunking model. So I guess a naive chunking would be taking all that information and just, pushing that into a model. We break those chunks down semantically on the file, on the folder, and the functional level, or if there's a class, and then that's the grouping mechanism that we use to determine what that looks like. For every single language, we built AST parsers specifically to be used in the context of Cascade, and we feed that information into the models before a output is produced, and that's how we understand how that works on a more specifically scoped level.
I guess the question is a little bit more, so when you ask a numerical question to a semantic model, right? How do you answer? Like, do you have what kind do you build an index in parallel to just a vector database to answer these type of questions?
So there's two I mean, if I'm understanding the question correctly, and correct me if I'm not, that information, those chunks that I described, are taken and then is fed to an embedding model. That embedding model processes that information, those chunks, produces those embeddings, and that sits on your local machine. So that information doesn't actually sit with Windsurf, it sits on your machine. And when you're running a query, we take those indexes and we pass those over to a foundation model provider. We do, the typical behind the scenes similarity search, so on and so forth, and produce an output off the back of that. In terms of the exact mechanisms behind the counting of that, that's probably something better scoped for the model research team.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Gina, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry, my apologies. So, I wanted to quickly add on what it says, is that although semantic chunking and also parsing is a part of what we do, there are also other mechanisms like Riptide, the proprietary model that we mentioned just now, that comes into play when it comes to fetching all sorts of information. And it's really a combination of all sorts of those mechanism that powers our context awareness today, whether it's in Windsurf for autocomplete or whether it's in Cascade.
Right. Awesome. All right. Yeah. Keeping the time in mind, let's move on, I'd say. Yeah.
Exactly. All right, perfect. All right, let me think about this because I do want to show quite a bit of things, but given time, we'll probably just quickly show one case of workflows today. So this is what you're looking at when we're talking about workflows. And a slight note here is that workflows are stored as Markdown file directly within your repository, so you can just easily modify them, delete them, or share them whenever you want. And this is a workflow for a test coverage analysis that I always do. So I realize that I always go through all of these steps whenever it comes to test coverage analysis. So I just put them all into this file. And then now with a front slash, pull that in, and in Cascade will be able to process that and then just automatically execute all of these steps whenever I go ahead and then activate this workflow without me just like manually doing it all the time. So Cascade will be able to go ahead and then analyze different things as I asked it to. And then along the way also execute some terminal commands, pull in all sorts of tools, and it eventually gives me a summary of my findings as I asked right here. We'll just give it a second to run. Awesome. So only after a few seconds, we can see that Cascade has already done the first step, started doing the second step, and it'll continue doing so, and we'll be able to see it. And the slight note here is this is another tool call. So you can see that it actually ran the terminal command, and it's also able to see exactly what happened over there. And if there's any sort of errors, right here, I define that to ignore any sort of errors along the way, but at the end, Cascade will circle back and then fix them. I'll just let Cascade run over there and probably go ahead and cover some other contents that I do want to mention today. And another highlight that I do want to mention is the Windsurf browser. And so 2 waves ago, wave 10, we launched our own Windsurf browser. And then 1 wave ago, wave 11, we enhanced the integration between the browser and the IDE. So now you can chat directly with the browser in Cascade and in the IDE, meaning that Cascade now has all sorts of information in the browser. It knows what's going on. For example, it knows what pages you have open. It knows what elements is on the DOM tree. It knows your console log, etc., etc. And it has direct access to that. So now with this, it's very easy for you just to quickly iterate through whether it's front-end UI development or just any sort of back-end development API connection, all sorts of that. And I'll quickly switch to the browser here. This is the browser itself. And you'll be able to see that here you can send the page itself to the Windsurf IDE, you can send the element, etc., etc. And the thing is here is you can not only do this to whatever local host, local web app you have open, you can actually do this to every single website you have open here. For example, I can just pull up the Windsurf web page here, and you can see here that I can send whatever elements on whatever website I opened. And once I click on, for example, this one, I'll be sending that to Windsurf's editor right here. And you can see that I clicked on the DOM element. Here it is. And it also has a screenshot of the element that I just clicked on. So just imagine how many different ways you can play with this function. And this also simplifies not only just you developing, but also it's just really easy for you to grab ideas from other websites. And so now you just leave the heavy lifting to Cascade and just imagine how you want with browser. So yeah, that's kind of all I have today. Now, wave 11, along with other waves before that, comes with a lot of different features. So really, we encourage you to explore all sorts of resources that we provide, whether it's the Windsurf cheat sheet we provide for today's hackathon, the Windsurf University, which is a series of videos that walks through features and examples, and also obviously the documentation we have provided on the website. Through these, you'll really get a grasp of what Windsurf has to offer, and we'll be able to build a lot of cool features with the Windsurf IDE. So I'll wrap up there. and happy to take any questions if there's any. But yeah, I'll hand it back to the new beta people.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Gina. I love that browser feature. I'm going to show a demo of it in just a minute after this. Hey, so great stuff. Maybe one question we can take if anybody has one. Yeah, right over there. Just wait 1 sec.
Demo. I just wanted to ask if you can just give some insights on the comparison on the competitors that you have, like GitHub Copilot, Coursera, and things like that.
Did you get that?
I'm going to hop in there for that one. So recently you've probably seen that we've got a few features. There's the Windsurf side of things. So there's the rules and workflows. There's a lot of security and compliance things that you may not necessarily think about if you're using this at home, but when we're deployed in an enterprise environment, they become quite mission critical. One thing that's come to light recently is the integration that we've had with Cognition. So alongside Windsurf, there is also Devin, and in the very, very near future, those products will be extremely tightly coupled. At Windsurf, we have a AI native IDE, and with Cognition, we have the first AI software engineer. You've probably seen a lot of these toolings in this space are all moving. They're all converging towards having the autonomous side of things as well. That will be tightly coupled into Windsurf. But in terms of a feature perspective, I'm going to be so real with you. Every feature that I say or any of these other companies have in 1 month or 2 months can be copied pretty quickly. It's more so a direction of the business and where it's moving towards. And we see that convergence towards that autonomous side of things. And we're building this tool or this platform to be a system that you can use at home and you can also use in a working environment. So I think that's the caveat there. I'm sure a lot of you work at companies, and if you try to bring them a tool, they'll be like, hey, we don't want to see this in our environment. We try to make sure that this is a tool that can serve you in both of those places.
Yeah, great stuff. Thank you, Ibs. All right. With that, guys, let's do a very quick stand up for a second. We've been sitting a lot. So just get up for 1 second, shake your legs. All right. Like this. Okay, great. One arm up and the other arm up. Okay. All right. Then we can sit down again. You have 5 more minutes. I'm going to be very quick. I'm going to show you at least my favorite feature of Windsurf. Okay, beautiful. I'm going to give you just a very, very quick demo of how you can use now Windsurf and Aparavi together with our native MCP server and what that unlocks for you, especially for tonight, in terms of the way and the speed that you can build with Windsurf and Aparavi integrated together, okay? So, all right, let's go. All right, I got the IDE here. I think you are already familiar with this interface now. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how you can integrate this and start with passing some more complex documents as context to the Windsurf application. In this case, I got this document here from a friend. It's a software design document that lays out some of the basically design patterns that he's looking for his travel app to build. So he's got a little bit of a system overview. He's got some system components in there. They're all as graphics, images. So now here we can see that it's actually started extracting. We can also see some mermaid diagrams being processed here. It's pretty consistent as well. So that's why I was able to look at this one and process it previous already. So this looks kind of, just to give you an idea, this looks somehow similar to this here. So this is a lot more talking now about the logic, between that is implemented for this application here, for this travel planner. So now I can use this context to then give Windsurf the permissions to start building. Now I came up with a plan and say, okay, sounds great. Let's build. And then it's going to go off and it's going to start creating a plan. This is part of the reasoning steps that Gina maybe brushed over briefly as well, making a plan of execution of what to do step by step. And we're just going to, depending on which model you choose, I always like to use Claude 4 Sonnet, but it takes a little bit longer to build. You'll be having a little bit more time when you get into the hacking challenge. I don't quite have as much time, so I'm going to skip forward here. I already built this application, takes about 2 minutes, 3-4 minutes. But since you've been playing a lot, this is what it's going to come out with. And you can see basically how I turned this travel application in one document into a full functioning app that I'm now running in the browser as an IDE, as Gina just explained to you. And I can log out, I can log back in. There we go. Now it's waiting. Or Kurt, classic. That's the demo. All right, and I can send as well now, since I have an error, it's actually quite nice. I can use this to send it as context and say, hey, fix that. Which hopefully it will do in just a second. Okay. Analyze the triplanar.js. Opportunity to switch back. See where we have gone. Accept all. Is right. Okay. Seems like it's kind of hung up here, but that's okay. I think we got the gist of it. So with that, I think I'm gonna close this demo here and give you the opportunity to build now yourself. So let me bring up the last slide that we have real quick. All right, now it's your time to try out these tools. I think you understand what you can do with them. We're going to be around everywhere. You can feel to grab a seat around the office. We'll give you about 1 hour or so to build up and come up with something cool. Afterwards, you're going to have 2 minutes to pitch your idea, pitch your project. As a hackathon expert, I recommend you to build something fun and try not to overcomplicate it. And yeah, have fun and see you here in about 1 hour, okay? Thank you so much. Thanks a lot, Gina. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, Lucas. Yes, have fun.
Yeah, thank you.
See you, boss.
What we can connect some extensions. Yeah. They have the chargers. I have quite a lot. Yeah. Okay. It will be really real needs. Yeah.